Today I'm working on this mower deck from a John Deere L110. It's a 42-inch deck. It's a typical deck that you see from the box stores. And this is the issue we have today. This bracket was pulled out. And you can see this metal bent up. Besides this bracket, this deck has been neglected. When I picked this tractor up, this is the condition it was in. We have this typical rust underneath. You can see there's material wrapped around the deck. This rust over here. The main focus today is to weld that bracket on. Once I have that on, I'm going to check the rest of the deck. I'm going to check spindles, the bearings, make sure everything spins the way it should. I'm going to check for what other cracks may be in the deck, see if there's any other welding that has to be done. And if not, I'm going to put this deck back onto the tractor, see if it runs okay. If everything's good with that, the next step after that is to take this all apart. I'm going to grind this all down, maybe not over here, but definitely on the bottom and up to about here. And I want to get the rust off the back end of this deck, prime it, paint it, and get it in action. So the good part is that all the pieces are here. And you can see that this is bowed up a little bit. There's a crack right here, so I'm going to take this piece off. This is the guide for the belt to make sure the belt doesn't jump off. And see how far this crack goes. It looks like it might go under here. And I may cut a piece off another deck to reinforce the bottom, or just make little brackets to secure this, like L-shaped brackets. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go. You can see how far that's bent up. I don't have a torch. All I have is a little propane torch, which probably won't do anything, but I'm going to heat it up. Then I'm going to bang this down, grind it down, and weld with it. As far as a welder, I did pick up a Lincoln 220 stick welder quite a few months back. I have a video on that up there, but I really haven't practiced with it at all yet. And what I'm going to use today is this Harbor Freight 120 welder. I've used this quite a bit in the past, repairing muffler, catalytic converters, a little patching here and there. I'm not the greatest with this either, but this I'm familiar with as opposed to the Lincoln 220. If I can't get the penetration of the weld that I want with this, we'll jump up to the Lincoln 220. This runs off 110. If any of you are thinking of buying this and using it, you need a dedicated line for this, and it should be at least 20 amps. And I do have a 20 amp line where there's nothing on that line whatsoever but the one outlet where this plugs into. I'm going off camera now to prepare that deck and start the weld. Once I'm done with that, I'll be back to show the results, good or bad, with this Harbor Freight 120. Okay, this is what I have done so far. It's not pretty, but it's holding. There was quite a bit of a gap. There's a little bit of a gap right here. And what I did was to weld onto this thicker piece, the bracket, and come on over to the thinner piece, and I built it up, went to another side, back and forth, not to have the deck warp from the heat. Went around a couple of times. I had a little kneaded in this, but I went over it again. I cleaned it down and went over it again. There's a gap over here I have to get. There was a crack over here. Took care of this crack. Took care of this crack. And around here, I got in the best I could. That's really ugly. Over here, I ended up burning through the deck. There was a gap to begin with, and I burned through the deck. And for those of you who are welders, the comments and suggestions down below would be appreciated on how you would handle this. I'm using the Harbor Freight 125 welder. So talking about another welder isn't going to help. This is what I'm using right now. What I did was build this up over here. I ground it down. So my idea is I'm going to weld from the weld here over to the other side to close that gap. Then I'm going to flip this over and see what it looks like on the bottom. I might put a patch on the bottom to go right across and weld that way, and see if that'll strengthen this piece and here. By the way, this metal bent down very easy, and that indicates to me this is fairly weak. That's why I might put the patch underneath. As far as over here, It really wasn't a crack over here. I was just testing out the welder on this. What was cracked was the paint, but the deck itself wasn't cracked, and this here isn't a crack either. For now, I'm gonna try and fill in that hole, flip it over, look at the other side, and I'll be back. This is where I'm at. And I'm not renaming this video The Ugliest Welds. These welds are ugly, but it is holding. I hit it a few times and nothing's moving. The cracks all welded up on this side. I went to the bottom side, and I also kind of stitched it down here. Look at this. You see how I went around down here. Now I was thinking about putting a patch across here because this metal was easy to bend, but I hit this with a ball peen hammer. I was going all around the deck looking for weak spots, and nothing really gave in. I was going to put this back on the mower to see how it worked before I cleaned it all up, but that mower itself needs work. And while I have it off, I took the blades off so I could sharpen them. I have to get this debris out from around the spindle. I'm going to clean this rust up over here. This rust is pretty deep, but it's not all the way through. Like I said, I used a ball peen hammer, went all the way around this deck, and everything was okay on that end. What I am going to do is to put some of this Rust-Oleum paint on the welds, because this deck is outside, and I know around these welds they always rust. And there's other work to be done on this deck besides the welding. These are the brakes that keep your blades from spinning when you disengage them. Well, when you release the lever, that cable comes through here, gets attached over here. And by the way, on these John Deere decks, these are adjustable. So if your cable stretches out a little bit, you can tighten it. But what's happening, when you pull the cable to release the brake, you notice this? The brake isn't opening up. This one gets pulled down. This one's supposed to be pulled up. Which one of them is holding this back. So I'm going to have to pull this bolt out, remove these little fittings and the springs, and it's probably dirt that's caked up in there that's keeping it from moving. Maybe a little bit of rust. I'm not going to do that on camera. Like I said, all I'm going to do is pull the bolt out. There's a spring over here. See the way it gets connected to the deck? It gets connected to the brake. Once I take these off, clean them up, put them back, make sure they're functioning, paint the bottom of the deck. This video is getting long, so I'm going to break it up into separate videos. Part 2 of this video will be titled Rusted Deck Restoration the Easiest Way. I'm going to try different methods to remove this rust. So if you're interested in seeing how I remove this rust to continue with this restoration, click on to the following video. And that brings this video to an end. If you have any questions or comments, post them down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, share it with someone else who might find it useful, and be sure to hit that bell icon not to miss my new videos as I upload them. Until next time, stay safe.